Episode 196. Han Li pondered for a moment, then snapped his fingers. A fireball the size of a fist shot from his fingertip, blasting a crater at the base of the tree and reducing the entire willow to ash in an instant. Han Li stepped forward and examined the area closely, but found nothing.
Looks like he's probably been killed.
The magic tool Han Li had originally selected and gifted to the old Taoist, the Purple Light Pearl, was properly called the Purple Light Resonance Pearl. Once forged, this magic tool came as a pair of beads. Not only could they project a protective light barrier, but if one bead was destroyed when the barrier was breached, the other bead would simultaneously crack and shatter even from 1,000 li away, truly an extraordinary thing. This magic tool was the most commonly used defensive artifact among disciples of the Joyous Union sect, one of the 6 Devil Dao sects. Han Li had seized several pairs during the border skirmishes. Finding them curious, he kept them instead of selling them off. When Han Li gave the old Taoist that magic tool, he had already harbored a secret thought: if the man met with misfortune, he would know of it immediately. But what he never expected was that the old Taoist would use the magic tool after just one night, and it looked like things had taken a turn for the worse. This caught Han Li completely off guard, leaving him scrambling to react. Han Li stood motionless at the edge of the pit as if weighing something over. After the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, his expression shifted. He released the wind spirit boat, leaped aboard, and transformed into a streak of white light flying off into the distance. The barren little hill seemed to fall silent once more, save for a few bird calls. It grew lifeless again. Half an hour later, a long, deep sigh echoed nearby. Then, from beneath a small tree a dozen zhang away from the pit, a figure slowly emerged. This person was wrapped head to toe in black cloth, leaving only a pair of golden blazing eyes exposed and topped with a yellow light shield. But the moment he fully emerged from the earth, the yellow light shield around him began to fade, until it vanished completely. He emerged and swept his gaze across the surroundings and the sky above.
Come on out. He really is gone.
As his words faded, several patches of ground around them began to bulge and shift. 3 more figures in identical black robes and yellow light emerged from beneath the earth. One of them, slender of build, appeared to be a woman.
Big brother, they told us to capture or kill that person. Now we're just letting them go with our own eyes. Won't we be in trouble for this?
The one who had just emerged was a slender figure, and he asked urgently, his voice sounding quite young. The man who had spoken first couldn't help but tremble. Her words struck right at the heart of his fears. They knew all too well the ruthless cruelty of those who had given them their orders.
It should be fine, right? When they gave the order, they never said the one coming was a Foundation establishment cultivator. That's way beyond what we can handle. If we tried to fight, we'd just be throwing our lives away.
Big brother is right. What right do we have to detain a Foundation establishment cultivator? I still refuse to believe they won't listen to reason at all.
Hearing this, the other 3 could only exchange helpless, bitter smiles. Their little sister was still so naive even now. Her life was hanging by a thread in their enemy's hands. Why would they bother reasoning with her?
Still, what little sister said isn't entirely without merit. I suspect they never expected to land such a big fish. Otherwise, they wouldn't have entrusted this matter solely to us. They'd have at least sent a Foundation establishment cultivator to assist.
Yes, if we explain things clearly, the punishment shouldn't be too severe. Still, it's a bit strange. I keep feeling like that Foundation establishment young cultivator looks familiar, like I've seen him somewhere before.
At these words, the other 3 were taken aback, their astonishment plain to see. The woman in particular had a flicker of curiosity in her eyes and opened her mouth to press for details. But just then, the man they called Big Brother raised a hand to cut her off.
All right, let's get out of here now. Whatever it is, we'll talk about it later.
The woman had no choice but to swallow her words and nod in agreement.
Where might you all be headed? Need me to see you off?
Just as they were about to pull out their flying magic tools and leave, a cold voice suddenly rang out from above. The voice was so bone-chillingly cold that it instantly sent the four masked figures into a panic. They cast protective spells almost simultaneously, then scattered in all directions before looking up. High above, dozens of yards in the air, Han Li stood on the wind spirit boat, his robes fluttering, his face expressionless as he stared down at them, a chill glint in his eyes. Their hearts sank in unison. One thought echoed through all four minds. When had he returned, and how had none of them sensed a thing?
Scatter.
The leading brother shot backward first, and a disc-shaped magic tool flew out from his robe. He stepped onto it and soared into the sky. The other three scattered, each flying off in a different direction. They all knew they stood no chance against a Foundation establishment cultivator. Better to scatter now and hope for a better chance at escape. As the young woman flew through the air, she couldn't help but glance back at Han Li in the sky, and what she saw left her astonished. Han Li stood on that little boat, utterly motionless, not making the slightest move to pursue them. This left the woman stunned, but inwardly she was overjoyed, feeling that a clean escape was now well within reach. But just then, a piercing, shrill laugh suddenly rang out from right in front of her. Startled, the woman whipped her head around to see a blinding, sword-shaped red light streaking through the air toward her, bearing down with ferocious momentum. The veiled woman raised her hand, just barely managing to hurl the ice spear talisman she had been clutching. The crystalline ice spear met the crimson light, and with a burst of white mist, it failed to stop the red radiance by even a hair. The sword's radiance then struck her water element protective barrier. Red and blue light exploded before her eyes. Her body jolted, and she was forced back a full 10 feet. Still, the barrier held firm, and the woman let out a long, relieved breath. Only then did she look ahead, a mix of shock and fury rising in her chest, though a flicker of unease still gnawed at her heart.
Could it be that Foundation establishment cultivator has an ambush set up here?
When the veiled woman finally saw who had attacked her, disbelief flooded her face beneath the black cloth. Before her stood two soldier-shaped puppets. They wore iron armor floating in midair. One held a massive bow, a crimson arrow shaped like a swordsman slowly being drawn taut. The other wielded a long blade that glowed with yellow light drifting toward him. The woman was shocked that two lifeless puppets could attack her like real people, but she knew that if she didn't destroy them immediately, escape would be impossible. With that thought, she gritted her teeth and pulled a gleaming blue flying dagger from her storage pouch. This was a high-grade magic tool she had bought with all her savings, one she normally couldn't bear to use. But now, escape was all that mattered, and she had no choice but to let it go. The flying blade transformed into a streak of blue light, shooting toward the doll that was approaching him. The blue flying knife reached the doll in an instant, and without hesitation, it slashed viciously at its head. But just as the masked woman hoped, a soft clang rang out. The doll moved with startling speed, raising its blade and knocking the blue flying knife away in a single stroke. Then it continued drifting toward her, unhurried and methodical. The masked woman's face went pale. She pointed a finger at her magic tool, now several yards away, and the flying blade immediately arced in a wide loop, curving back to strike the puppet from behind. But what left her even more astonished was what happened next. The doll, as if it had eyes in the back of its head, casually swung its blade and knocked her magic tool flying. This time, the woman was truly terrified. Just as she was about to try something else, that shrill laughter rang out again, and the bow-wielding puppet swordsman fired another shot. The masked woman had no choice but to hastily dart to the side, trying to evade the swordsman, yet the crimson glow followed her movements as if guided by an unseen hand, catching her off guard. She was forced to take another hit, her body knocked back several steps. And at that moment, the doll wielding the long blade finally reached her side. Without any hesitation, it raised the blade and slammed it down against her barrier. How could the masked woman let him succeed? She hastily dodged backward. And so, caught between the two puppets, one close, one far, the masked woman, despite her considerable cultivation, was forced back step after step, with no chance of escape. As the woman struggled to fend off the doll's attacks with her flying knives, she was drenched in sweat and utterly exhausted. Suddenly, the melee doll leaped backward, leaving her side. At the same time, the archer doll lowered its great bow and ceased its assault. The woman froze at the sight, then a sigh sounded from behind her.
Fifth sister, you got forced back too, huh?
Upon hearing this, the veiled woman straightened up, then slowly turned around. Behind her, the other 3 masked men stood with their heads hung low. Behind each of them stood 3 or 4 identical puppets, but among them, besides the soldier-shaped ones, there were even several beast puppets resembling tigers and leopards. The woman swept her gaze around in desperation. Sure enough, without her even realizing it, she had been forced back to her original position. And her 3 elder brothers, all of them had vacant eyes, as if they had been placed under some kind of restriction. The veiled woman looked up at Han Li in the sky, then listlessly tossed her flying dagger magic tool to the ground, offering no further resistance. Han Li saw this and wasted no time. He raised his hand, and several green streaks shot into the masked woman's body. She felt foreign objects pierce her flesh, and in the same instant, her true essence seized up, no longer flowing freely. Having done all this, Han Li didn't rush to question the 4 of them. Instead, with a wave of his hand, he drew them all up from the ground and into the Windchaser boat beneath him.
This place isn't safe to linger. If we don't leave now and an expert actually shows up, we'll be in serious trouble.
Han Li chose a direction far from the U capital, then transformed into a streak of white light, carrying the 4 of them away from the area.